Welcome to CMAutoEditor, or welcome back, I should say, because I just released version 2 of CMAutoEditor, and this is really a major update. The biggest change is probably that you can now import data from OpenStreetMap, like forests, rivers, roads, buildings, all of that stuff, and in this way you can use CMAutoEditor now not only to set realistic elevations, but really do complete maps. With version 2 and all the changes there are in version 2, it looks like my previous tutorial video is now totally deprecated. But instead of, like in the previous video, going through all the features there are and explaining them, which may be a bit dry, this time I'll do a video where I just, make a complete map. In this way, we'll certainly miss a few features, but I think this will give you a better feeling of actually how to use CMAutoEditor to create maps. Now, I think we'll have like 4 parts for this tutorial. Like the first part of this tutorial will be, some of you may call it the boring stuff, but it's, I guess, the most important stuff actually. So in this first part, we'll go through what tools are needed, how to download and install CMAutoEditor, and what resources we need to have a map. For this tutorial session, we'll make a map for Combat Mission Cold War. Currently, CMCW is the only member of the Combat Mission family for which you can use CMAutoEditor. That has to do with the fact that you have to have a special profile for each member of the family. As you may know, in the editor there are slight differences for the different combat mission titles. You have, for example, different flavor objects, different roads, different houses, and all that. And they have to be programmed in, and currently I only did it for CMCW. So we'll start with that, but actually it's a good way to start because in this you can learn a lot of the features that you need to make maps for combat mission with this tool. Now let's think, what do we need in order to make a map? I guess first of all we'll have to decide on a location for which we want to do the map. Of course, that may be a historic location and we are set with that, or we want to do a campaign in a special area or whatever. But there are other things that enter the decision process, like availability of resources. For this session, we'll make a map in Germany, in North Rhine-Westphalia. And this area is really suited for using CMAutoEditor because you get lots of high quality resources for that. North Rhine-Westphalia has good elevation data for free. And you also have to think, if we import OpenStreetMap data, it's not populated all that well in all the regions of the world. Germany is quite good at it, and so you can do maps in, I guess, all parts of Germany, basically. But other parts of the world, not so much. You'll have to probably select which you can do and which you can't do. Another thing to keep in mind, Combat Mission Cold War takes place around 1980, and OpenStreetMap data is of course present day data. So we'll have to have some means of deciding what should be on the map and what shouldn't. Like were there houses that weren't built in 1980, or maybe features that were removed in the meantime, or whatever. In North Rhine-Westphalia, you get good quality aerial imagery. Well, not from 1980, but somewhere from between 1988 and 94, which is, I guess, good enough for us here. And so we'll use that in order to decide what should be on the map and what shouldn't. The best way to start, I guess, is just downloading CMAutoEditor itself, for which we go to github.com and just search for CMAutoEditor like this. And there we find it. Click on it, and there's some README, but we can ignore this for now and just go to install binaries. You just click on CMAutoEditor latest and save the release zip in some folder where you can find it later. Just be warned, the files are relatively big, so like 780 megabytes. This, I'm afraid, is the price you have to pay for getting a nice GUI instead of having to go down to the command shell and having to type in commands and all that. So once we've downloaded the zip file, we can just go to the folder where we've saved it and unpack it. Thanks. Now we can delete the release file. Right, so what do we have here? The CMAutoEditor tool itself. There's one elevation converter, another elevation converter, and the converter for OpenStreetMap to Combat Mission. There's also README, license stuff, an example height map, and what's important, the OpenStreetMap config. We'll have a look at this later, I guess, in part 3 of the tutorial. So for the average Windows 10 user, that should be all you have to do in order to, well, install CMAutoEditor. We can give it a try. Let's just click on CMAutoEditor. It takes a little while because the loader has to unpack some stuff. But if you see this graphical user interface, you are all set up and good to go. If that doesn't work for you and the program crashes for whatever reason, then you're a bit out of luck because then you have to go back to GitHub and download the Python code and use that. I won't go into detail about how that works here. Please take a look at the README. Should explain everything you need. By the way, if something crashes or doesn't work as intended or whatever, feel free to contact me on the Combat Mission forum or on GitHub. This is a really complex piece of code and there's absolutely zero chance that there are no bugs inside. So I absolutely count on something going wrong. But let's not dwell on bugs and what may or may not go wrong, and instead select a location for our map and draw an outline and all that. For creating scenarios, I find map.army really useful. And we'll use that in order to find a location and draw a rectangle to select the outline and find the corresponding coordinates and all that. Now, I'm personally very interested in the Aga Valley, and so I thought we'll have a map in that region. I thought this area here might be an interesting place. Um, so because there's more or less everything that's interesting for making a map. So we have a um, very distinct terrain with some hills and there's forest, there's a river, there are some settlements, what you probably can't see right now. Ah, yeah, here it is. Um, there's a railway, there are roads, there are some small streams. And all that. And I think this is really good for demonstration purposes. Let's just take a look. Instead of the raw terrain, let's have a hybrid satellite image and map. Yeah, you can see it here. Yeah, so this is the area I want to make a map for. Um, I pretty much guess it will also serve to show what doesn't really work that well when importing OpenStreetMap data. Um, Settlements with very dense buildings, like for example all those residential buildings here, don't always work that well. But we'll see later. All right, so I think we should make a map that isn't too large for now because making maps in CMAutoEditor still isn't an instant process. It takes some time because, well, CMAutoEditor just automates clicking. It does it with a superhuman speed, but it still takes time and it's not like just importing a file or something. So let's not do a too large map for demonstration purposes. All right, new take. Somehow I didn't have the browser properly scaled, but now it should work. Um, so I think we can now actually draw the rectangle. Let's go function specific symbols, areas, angular, and start drawing. So yeah, we want this industrial area here on the map. So let's have it like here, maybe up to something like here. So we get enough of the western hill. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's not include too much of the settlement down here in the map. Okay. And yeah, like here. Yeah. Oh, and 1 point too much. Let's remove it. Now this rectangle doesn't have to be perfect. It's sufficient if it's an approximation. The tool itself will make a correct rectangle out of it, so don't worry. So we'll need the outline later. Um, so let's just go and save this. And with that, we are more or less done here. So as I said, we don't need the outline, the exact outline right now, but we should have this handy and have a rough feeling of the map itself because we need to select data for this map here. We need the elevation data, and we can get that in North Rhine-Westphalia from geoportal.nrw, like here. Unfortunately, it's all in German. Somehow the German administration doesn't like to do something in any language that isn't German, but it's really not that difficult to do, and I'll show you how to do it. We'll just go to download. No thanks, I don't need an introduction. No, go away. Yeah, we might need that later. Okay. Now let's select the proper area. We were down here. Maybe you recognize it. Yep, so the data is made up of tiles anyway, so we don't have to be that exact. Let's just draw a rectangle here. Click on this here. So remember, we wanted to have this industrial area. We are down here somewhere. So let's, the train station wasn't exactly on it. Let's go like this here. That should be perfectly sufficient. Yep. Okay. Now we have to select the correct product. Go to plus and just select DGM for digitales Geländemodell. That's this one here. Check. And übernehmen. And now zum Download, which just means take me to the download. It's not all that large. Right. So the page created my download. Okay, download. And we are done. Now back to our folder. Okay, XYZ. We have this zip file with our elevation data, and we'll just unpack it here. Yep, and we'll just delete the original zip file. We don't need it any longer. Okay, and that's it for our elevation data. So, what else do we need? The actual OpenStreetMap data, of course. For that, we head over to openstreetmap.org and let's have a short look here. Remember, the village we look at is called Agger. That's this one here. Yeah, and this, I guess, basically looks like any other topographical map you know. So you have drawn here areas for forests and there's a road and the river and all that. But the difference is if we click on this here, query features, we can see that this visual representation we see here is actually a rendered image of a lot of areas or single features like, well, there's an actual tree, two trees, residential area, buildings, meadow, wood, and all that. And this is the kind of objects that we need in order to extract data and make a combat mission map out of it. The actual work we'll do with a tool called JOSM, which is a tool specifically, as the name implies, I guess, for OpenStreetMap. You can get it on josm.openstreetmap.de. I'm not sure if there are other pages, but um, this just refers you to the Microsoft Store anyway, so maybe you just go to the Microsoft Store directly and download it there. It's really just clicking there and you get it installed, and it's super easy. Now, what do we need to do in order to download the data? We just go to this downward green arrow, or we go to File, Download Data, and there we see this slippy map thing here. Let's zoom in a bit. By now you should be familiar with the area, I guess. Yep, that should be roughly around here. And we select this box. Again, here it's perfectly okay and maybe even useful to have the selected area a little larger than what we are really interested in. All right, let's make it a little bigger. Yeah, like this. And we'll just press download. It takes a bit. And we're done. And there we go. Okay, this may look a bit confusing, and this is why I showed you openstreetmap.org before. This is basically the same as an OpenStreetMap, just rendered in a different way. You have here the objects directly. Yeah, maybe you can see it. This is the village Aga I showed you before. These are building outlines. That's the river. What else do we have? The Bundesstraße. There's the railway here. And let's see what else interesting there is. This is waterway stream. This is the little stream we did have a look at. Some people entered actual trees, as you saw before. And there's a lot of other stuff like this is a hedge and bus stops. What else do we have? Lots of different ways, power poles. And we can actually use much of this for combat mission. So even those power poles, for example, can be used in order to place flavor objects. So we don't have power poles. They are telephone poles, I think, but it's a good enough match. There's also what's maybe more important. We have meadows here. So those things with land use on it are usually areas. There is forest. There should be some farmland somewhere. No, that's a meadow. Scrub. Scrub is something we can do in combat mission. More scrub. Meadow. Oh, come on. This isn't all about cows. Forest. All right, anyway, maybe those farmers here don't like to grow crops or something. Or maybe I just don't find them right now. It doesn't matter all that much. We'll get to this later, and I talk in detail about those key value pairs here. They are related to the file I showed you before, default OSM config, which maps those values to what we have in Combat Mission. All right, so for now there's not much we need to do. As you may imagine, we can use this tool later on in order to manipulate the map. So removing stuff that wasn't on there in the 1980s or adding stuff and all that. But for now, the only thing we need to do is just go and save the data. For that, we go to Save As. And yeah, and what's important, we don't choose the .osm format, but instead use GeoJSON. Yeah, I already have it here. Yeah, and oh, hello. Um, I won't bore you with the details. GeoJSON is just way more easy to handle than those nasty OSM XML files. Let's leave it at that. Okay, save, and we are done. Yeah, override. Yeah, override. That's fine with me. Okay, what else do we need? Historical aerial images. We'll get those from the page of the regional administration of the Cologne area. Don't worry about the link. I'll put it below the video. As I said, German administrations. Don't worry. What we need is actually only this link here for the WMS web service. In order to do something useful with this link for the WMS web service, we need another tool, and it's called QGIS, which is another open source tool for map making and all stuff related to that. Just go to qgis.org, download it, and install it. In QGIS, we make a new project, and first of all, we should install another plugin. Manage and install plugins. And okay, I've already installed it. Quick map services. We can find it under web, quick map services, and we choose OSM standard. This is mainly because we need to know where we are, and this is hard to do from just aerial imagery. So let's go to our familiar area here. Right. Now, next, we go to Open Data Source Manager and we go to WMS. And yeah, I've already have it here. Usually you do new, enter a name and the URL. Of course, the URL we just copied. And then just hit OK. And then you'll have this one here. Say connect and use this one. It's in German, it says historical ortho photos from the years 1988 to 1994. I think we should choose TIFF here, but probably it's not that important. And we just click add. Yeah. So, yeah, as you can see, this is the aerial image. And of course, it's in gray to show everyone that it's historical. All right. So now it's nice to have this here, and yeah, we can switch back and forth from OSM to this aerial image. It looks quite similar. The differences here in this area aren't that big, but what we can see here already, there's a golf court here in present day OpenStreetMap data. And if we go to the historical imagery, this is just farmland. So we'll have to remove that later. Maybe there will be other things like buildings and all that. Yeah, but we'll see. Um, Now, this is nice, but I assure you it's quite tedious to switch back and forth from here to JOSM, and oh, there's this building that shouldn't be there in the other app. No, what we do instead is we export this image. We do this by right-clicking on this layer here, export, save as, and yeah, we leave this as a GeoTIFF. Now, GeoTIFFs are really nifty because those are images that actually know where on the globe they are and how they are oriented. So we don't have to manually fit this image on any map. It just knows where it should belong. Okay, we uncheck create VRT. We don't need that. We choose something like ETRS 89, something with UTM anyway, because what we want to do is we want to select the correct resolution, and it's much easier to do that in meters per pixel instead of degrees per pixel. So yeah, and very important, choose map view extend. Now that is bad. Let's press cancel because we want to have a larger area here. Yeah, I think this should work. Okay, export, save as, check. Once again, choose this one here. Choose, yeah, and what's important, map view extend instead of trying to export the whole image data from all of North Rhine-Westphalia. This, I assure you, will fail. So instead, map view extend, and let's choose a resolution here. I'm not entirely sure what the correct original resolution is. I think I usually do something like 0.4 meters per pixel. That's because we want to zoom far in so that we can really compare the building outlines to what's on the image. And as you may imagine, from a resolution like what we currently see here, that's going to be difficult. Okay, 0.4. Let's choose a file name. Now, I've already done this before, that's why it's here. But still, let's go through the motion, press save. I want to, yeah, I will do it. Come on, why not? And then you press OK, and yeah, I'll see you once that is done because that will take a few minutes. And now for the really useful thing here, let's head over to JOSM. And there we need another plugin. Let's go to Preferences, Plugins, and it's called, I think, yeah, Totally Creative Import Image plugin. I already have it installed. You should, of course, install it. And it can be found under Imagery and Import Image. And yeah, okay, I'm already in the right folder. And there you can just click on the image you just exported, open. And here's where the magic happens. As I said, it's a geotiff which knows where it should be on the map and how it's oriented. It's a really large image as we saw, so it takes a while to load. And yeah, so you can see it automatically oriented itself on the map. You can see it's slightly angled. And yeah, so let's move this layer behind the actual OpenStreetMap data. And now, nope, wrong button. And now let's just zoom in a bit. This is really slow because it's much data to load with the image. But here you can see it fits perfectly. Here's the road. Here are farmland areas, forests, and all that. And it's fitting nicely on the image, and we can use this directly to see what should be there and what shouldn't. So we can just zoom in further, and this is why I wanted to have an image with such a high resolution. Yeah, and okay, we have to zoom out a little bit. It's not that high resolution. It's a bit hard to see here. Yeah, but maybe you can see it here. So we can now go. We can just delete a building. Yeah, but we can see there should be one. Let's move it back there. And yeah, as you can see, we can use this later on to convert our OpenStreetMap data into, well, it's more like 1990s than 1980, but still, it's then historical OpenStreetMap data, so to speak. Okay, so let's go back. We selected the map. We have the coordinates. We have the elevation data. We have OpenStreetMap data. We have aerial imagery. And so I think we are basically done with getting all the ingredients for then making the map. And I think this already concludes part 1 of this tutorial. So in part 2, I intend to cover extracting elevation data, showing you how to use freely rotatable bounding boxes. What we also need for this map is, you can see there's a river in between, and okay, it won't have that large an impact here, but you know, in reality, surprise, surprise, water flows downhill, but in combat mission, there's only one water level, so we'll have to correct the landscape for that a bit. That's really easy to do, and I'll show you. We'll have that in part 2. And I think part 3 then should be putting, once we have the terrain, so the elevation data in Combat Mission in the editor. Part 3 will then demonstrate how to just put vanilla OpenStreetMap on top of this. And in part 4, we'll use JOSM plus our aerial image here in order to correct the data, that is going back to 1990, 1980, plus add some more stuff. Usually in OpenStreetMap, because it's not for computer games, you you lack stuff like all the little hedgerows, and as you maybe can see, there are way more trees in reality than what's marked here. So we'll have to add some more trees, bushes, maybe stuff like that. So we'll enhance the map and not only transform it back to 1980. And I guess, yeah, that part 4 should be enough. And afterwards, we'll have a nice little map where, yeah, I mean, then we can put units on it. But that's a different thing and won't be covered in this tutorial. All right. Yeah. If you found this interesting and want to see more, you know the drill. Hit the like button, hit the, the subscribe button so you get a note when part 2 is out. And I hope I'll catch you in the next video.